Shalawam and welcome back. This is still Hadassah Saiwan and we are going to complete part 1. I had some visitors at my gate. I could not turn them away and now they're gone and I can carry on. And unfortunately, this program does not have a pause button that I could have conveniently paused and carry on, but it's all good, right? Now, before we move on to that paragraph that we had stopped at, something came into my mind, and it was a scripture, and I want to address it because it's written down in the Gospels that Hamashiach said, "I saw Satan fall as lightning." And he did not say Satan's. Okay, one of two thoughts for that. Now, remember our book has been contaminated, right? He could have seen the Satans fall as lightning. Or, second thought is, even them have a leader. Even they have a leader. And I tend to go with the second thought, that even though there are 5 Satans, which doesn't mean that they are kings per se, they're leaders, but even the leaders have a leader, right? So my thought is that, yes, he saw a Satan fall like lightning. He could have seen the Satans fall like lightning, but then the other angels fell too. What about them? So that's why I'm going with the second thought, that the leader of the leaders, he saw fall like lightning. All right. But it doesn't change anything that is being said here, because all that I have to show you is backed up by the scriptures. All right. And the Apocrypha. You can't discount the Apocrypha just because it's not in the Bible. Many people will say, especially those ones that are in the church and believe they're pastors, they will say, well, it's not in the Bible, so we can't believe it. Who told you that? Well, it's not canon, so we can't believe it. Who told you that? The very same people that are deceiving us today, the very same people that enslaved us and lied to us and took away our identity, you're going to believe them? All right. I've been tricked long enough. I've been fooled and lied to and deceived long enough. I do not believe anything that they say. So let's move on to the next paragraph. To start with the basics of understanding the beast and the Satans of Revelation, we have to go back to the book of Daniel. We have to go back to the beginning to look at several images that he saw in his visions. An angel explained what Daniel saw, and this also gives us insight as to the beast in the book of Revelation. Please note that the book of Daniel is closely tied to the book of Revelation, and even Hamashiach referred to the book of Daniel when speaking about the end times. Daniel was called the end times prophet. Excuse me. So let's look at Daniel chapter 2, verse 31. Excuse me. You, O king, saw, and behold, a great image. Now, the king that he's speaking of is Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. So to give you a background to what this story is about, Nebuchadnezzar had a dream, and the dream was terrifying. But when he woke up, he could not remember the dream. So he called all his wise men and said to them, tell me the dream and the interpretation. And they said, but king, are you nuts? No, they wouldn't have said that. That's me. They said, but king, you tell us the dream and we will gladly give you the interpretation. And he said, no, I want you to tell me the dream and give me the interpretation, or else off with your heads. So they're looking around each other and scratching their heads and like, this has never ever been done in any Any place on this earth, never ever been done where someone can give a dream, give the owner of the dream the details of that dream and the interpretation. He said it had never been done. So he got angry. Nebuchadnezzar got angry and said, okay, well, off with your heads. Daniel and his friends heard about it, and they begged the I can't really know, I don't remember his name, but the person in charge of carrying out the orders for Nebuchadnezzar, the servant of Nebuchadnezzar, and asked him for 24 hours. Please tell the king, don't be so hasty. We can tell him the dream and we will give him the interpretation, but give us 24 hours. So, of course, the servant went back to Nebuchadnezzar and told him, and he said, okay. And that night they prayed, and the Most High gave Daniel the dream, and he gave him the interpretation. And now Daniel is telling the king what he saw, and he's going to give him the interpretation. Now, nothing like this has ever been done, but this is all Alahaya. This is what he does, and he does it very well. He can give dreams and visions, he can give interpretation, and he can also take them away. Nebuchadnezzar was a tool to teach us today of what he can do. He can give a man a dream who's not even of our lineage, but he can also take that dream away. But the dream was given to Nebuchadnezzar because he was part of the image that he saw. Okay. Now this great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before you, and the form thereof was terrible. This image's head was of fine gold, his breast and arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron. So that's one portion, and then the next portion, his feet, part of iron and part of clay. Now we know what the popular opinion of that is out there. Verse 34, you saw that a stone was cut out without hands, and we know who that stone is, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and broke them to pieces. So this stone came, and the feet upon which all the other parts of the body rested upon the feet were the first to be destroyed, and subsequently all the others were destroyed. Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, and the gold broken together, and became like chaff of the summer threshing floors. Taking a while for my computer to move on, that no place was found for them. So the stone crushed the feet and everything else that was upon it. And what Daniel saw was a male figure that was terrible. But it was made up of 5 parts. And we're going to see what those 5 parts are. And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. You, O king, are a king of kings, for Alahayam of heaven have given you a kingdom, power, and strength, and glory. So I have that highlighted and underlined because I want us to understand that what Daniel saw and Nebuchadnezzar witnessed in his dream were kingdoms. But these kingdoms put together formed one image. So what are we supposed to take from that is this, that they're all one and the same. They're all part of each other. Starting with the head. But also the purple highlight for Allah Hayam of heaven have given you a kingdom. Meaning that the Most High has permitted these kingdoms to come forth upon the earth. And he gave the power and the strength and the glory and the kingdom to Nebuchadnezzar. He even gave him the power to enslave the children of Yashra'al. He enslaved them. He took them in captivity. And that was given to him because of our disobedience. We were disobedient. Therefore, we had to pay. And speaking, when I said the children of Yashra'al, I'm speaking of the southern kingdom. They were the ones that were taken by Nebuchadnezzar. Right? Verse 38. And wheresoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven has he given into your hand. So everything that's in your kingdom, the Most High has given to you, O King of Babylon, and have made you ruler over them all. You are this head of gold. And gold is one of the most precious metals there are. So he started out with gold. So let's see what happens after that. Verse 39. And after you shall arise another kingdom inferior to you. That's why it was called silver, the chest and arms of silver. And another kingdom of brass, which will be the belly and the thighs, which shall bear rule over all the earth. So these were worldwide conquering, ruling kingdoms. I like to call them empires. Number 40. And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron. For as much as iron breaks in pieces and subdues all things, and as iron that breaks all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. So this fourth kingdom, he was vicious. He is ruthless and cruel and brutal, to the point of breaking in pieces and stamping upon and destroying anything and anyone in its path. Verse 41. And that would be the legs of iron. So now he's moving on to the next and final empire that makes up this image. Verse 41. And whereas you saw the feet and the toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But they shall be in it of the strength of the iron. So whatever this fifth empire is of the fourth empire. They're one and the same. Except there's a slight difference. It is not purely iron anymore. It is now iron mixed with clay. For as much as you saw the iron mixed with miry clay. Verse 42. And as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. Verse 43. And whereas you saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. That is a very peculiar statement. I love these prophetic statements that the Most High gives his prophets. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. What is so peculiar about this iron and this clay that makes them so different, almost like the opposites of each other? And when you really look at the elements, when you look at them in reality, iron is a metal a hard metal, and clay is like soil. So they're two different elements altogether. Two have different properties. And they're used in different ways. Although you can make things out of, say for example, you can make something out of iron. Like a bowl out of iron, and you can make a bowl out of clay. But you can break the bowl of clay, but the iron will be harder to break. They have different properties. And because they have different properties, they can't mix together. Now, many people will say that this is an example of what is happening today, where you have AI and people. This is the example of what the powers that be that are ruling this earth are trying to create. They're trying to mix man with AI to create the ultimate being, another kind of being, another kind of species, just like what their forefathers have done to create a hybrid being, another species. But this has nothing to do with that. This has nothing to do with that. No. Once you understand what the kingdoms represent, who they are, then you'll see that has nothing to do with AI and people, men, flesh. Has nothing to do with it. You see, that's what I'm saying. Popular opinion will tell you, oh, well, that's proof that, they're trying to transform the human body and put AI inside of it and turn us into, humanoids. That's not it. No. So let's read on. But they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. It cannot mix. Two different properties, two different kinds of materials all together. All right. And once you know what the iron represents, once you know what the clay represents, then you will know what it is that Daniel is speaking of. And what Alahayam is saying to us through his prophet. Verse 44. And in the days of these kings shall Alahayam of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So the kingdom of the Most High will reign on the earth forever and ever, and these other kingdoms will be destroyed. So there's a happy ending to this dream for us, but not for Nebuchadnezzar, because he's the head of gold. All right, verse 45. For as much as you saw that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it breaks in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold, the great Alahayam have made known to the king what shall come to pass hereafter. And the dream is certain, and the interpretation thereof sure. So the Most High is going to send his stone to destroy these kingdoms, because they're one and the same. That's why he saw one image, but this one image was made up of these different parts. Same machine, different parts. They have different purposes, but they all will come together and create the ultimate kingdom. And we'll see that later on. And that great stone will become a great mountain and fill the whole earth. All right, we know who that great stone is. Luke 20, verse 17. And he beheld him, this is Hamashiach, and said, what is this then that is written? The stone which the builders rejected, the builders meaning the leaders of the day, the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes, the religious leaders. The same is become the head of the corner. The stone that they rejected becomes the head of the corner. Verse 18, whosoever shall fall upon that stone shall be broken, but on whomsoever it shall fall, it will grind him to powder. So it's better for us to fall on the stone than to have the stone fall on us, because when we fall on the stone, we'll just be broken and he can put us back together again. But when you're grind to powder, although nothing is impossible for him, but he's showing us, I'm not dealing with you anymore. I'm done with you. I've destroyed you. So it's better to fall on the stone and ask for forgiveness. Humble ourselves before him than to have him to fall on us and destroy us. Okay, the book of Shalawam, which is the book of Job, chapter 33, verse 6. Behold, I am according to your wish in Allahayam's stead. I also am formed out of the clay. So now we're getting to know what the clay is. Let's look at Yasha'oya, the book of Isaiah, chapter 64, verse 8. But now, O Yahweh, you are Abba Yanah, meaning our Father. We are the clay, and you are our potter, and we all are the work of your hand. So this is a spiritual, this is something, he's speaking of it as spiritual, but it is also physical. This is what Adam and Hawa were formed from. They were formed from the ground, from the soil. That's where we were taken from. But when we look at it in a spiritual sense, he's saying, you are the one who forms us. You reform us. You transform us and you conform us. Because of sin, we've become in a marred image. Our form is misshapen. So now he has to come and reform us, transform us, and conform us. And that's what clay is like. If anyone has ever handled clay, you can form it into whatever shape you want it to be. But when we look at this from both a spiritual point of view and a physical point of view, we can understand now that the iron, which is part of the empire that was before it, because it's iron, the legs of iron, but now this clay are speaking of people, but not just any kind of people, peculiar people, people that belong to whom? Allahayam, Abba Yanah, our Father. When we become clay, that means he is remodeling us. That means he's taking an interest in our lives. We become his. And another thing that we need to understand is that these kingdoms all have to do with control, worldwide domination, even down to the last one, which is the iron mixed with clay. Worldwide control, worldwide domination. In every way that they can use, whatever methods they can use to carry out their evil agendas. Nebuchadnezzar saw a great image in his dream, and it was troubling, but when he woke up, he could not remember the dream, as Allahayam took it away from him and gave the knowledge and its interpretation to Daniel to tell it to Nebuchadnezzar. Now, this image in his dream was interpreted to be comprised of 5 kingdoms. The head of gold was the Babylonian Empire, or the Babylonian kingdom. The breast and arms of silver. I keep saying chest, but chest is breast as well. So the breast and arms of silver. And sorry, yes, I was here looking at, yeah. The breast, I keep repeating myself, I'm sorry, because I'm here looking for that portion of the scripture, but I think it's on the next slide. So it's of silver, and that was the Medes and the Persian Empire. The belly and thighs of brass was the Greek Empire. His legs of iron, which was the Roman Empire. Now we move on to his feet and toes of iron and clay. It will be then the Roman Empire mixed with a people. And that caused the Fourth Empire to be reinvented. It reinvented itself to become the Fifth Empire, the one of feet and toes, iron mixed with clay. But we're going to speak more about that later on. Now, these 5 empires were considered world empires because they dominated and conquered civilizations worldwide. Now, Daniel was given his own vision of these empires, and it confirms that the 2 visions are one and the same as they bear witness of each other. Now, we know in this next vision that he had, this dream, he saw 4 empires. But that doesn't mean that there was a mistake. I'll explain to you everything as we go on. So don't think, oh, well, he saw 5 in the first one and now he sees 4. There must be a mistake. There are no mistakes. Not in this case, all right? Because the Roman Empire, okay, if I'll be repeating myself. So let me wait until we get to that slide and then we will see something about this Roman Empire. All right. Okay, let's move on. Daniel was an end times prophet, and these conquering empires have affected civilizations for many eras. And they will continue to play a part in the final end times world empire, the coming final empire that is going to be so brutal and so wicked that we don't want to be here when it comes. In fact, the southern kingdom will not be here when it actually rises up. That I know for sure. I wanted to say certain and sure at the same time. That I know for certain, and that I know for sure. All right. Okay, let's move to Daniel chapter 7, verse 1. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, this is another king now, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spoke and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, 4 winds of the heaven strove upon the great sea. And 4 great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. Now, when we see that word sea speaks of multitudes. So out of the multitudes, these beasts were raised up, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion. So I have these animals on the line for a reason. We'll see how they relate to the book of Revelation, because they reappear in the book of Revelation. The first was like a lion, this is verse 4, and had eagle's wings, and I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man. So that it was made to stand upon the feet as a man, and the man's heart was given to it. Verse 5, and behold another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had 3 ribs in the mouth of it between the teeth of it. And they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. And after this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. And after this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. So we see this iron reappearing. So automatically we know which kingdom this is. It devoured and broke in pieces and stamped the residue. And the residue there speaks of who? The remnant. Who are the remnant? We are the remnant. The people of the Most High. With the feet of it. And it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. And it had 10 horns. We're going to see this reoccurring as well. The heads, the horns, and the crowns. Verse 8, And I considered the horns, and behold, they came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. And those great things are not good things, those are blasphemous things, evil things. Now, before we move on to verse 9, I have the animals underlined. And if you look at the history, because we already know what the lion represents, is the first kingdom that Nebuchadnezzar saw, and also what Daniel saw, and that was the Babylonian Empire. We already know that, that the second, the bear, would be the Medes and Persia. And we also know that the third, the leopard, is the Greek Empire. Because all that is going to be revealed later on. Now, when you go to the history of these empires and see what caused them to be conquered, you will see that the symbolism here. The eagle's wings till they were plucked and then lifted up from the earth and made to stand upon the feet as a man. This is the lion, and a man's heart was given to it. Then you understand the significance behind this prophetic imagery. Same thing with the bear on one side with 3 ribs and 3 ribs in its mouth, and it was told to go and devour much flesh. When the Medes and Persian Empire came, they came and 3 particular nations, it literally took over. But then the leopard, the one with on the back of it, it had 4 wings of a fowl, and the beast also had 4 heads, and we know that was the Greek Empire ruled by Alexander the Great. When he died, he had no children, so the empire was divided into 4 and given to 4 of his generals, who became kings over those 4 portions of his kingdom. So once you know the history, then the prophetic imagery will, and the understanding also has to come from the Most High, because you can read the history and you still can't connect the dots together. But once you can connect the dots, then you see the prophetic imagery revealing history even before history happened. And that's why we have to believe in the word of the Most High, because he prophesied it before it happened. He prophesied the fall of Babylon, who was Nebuchadnezzar's empire. It was Nebuchadnezzar's empire. He prophesied that it was going to fall. He prophesied that the Medes and Persian Empire will be conquered as well as the Greek Empire. He prophesied these things through his prophets. And that's why when we get to his word, even though we may not understand it, and we have to pray for understanding, we have to pray to get him to reveal to us. And he will reveal it to us. He doesn't want to hide things from his children. He wants us to know. He wrote all this down through his prophets for his people. He does not want to hide anything from us. Okay, let's move on to verse 9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days, and this is Alahayam, did sit. This is Yahweh Alahayam, whose garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. And whose hair is like wool? I don't see many other nations with hair of wool except that of us, the Negroes. Yeah, you can say Africans have hair of wool, but that's not, they're not of his lineage. Yes, they look like us, but they're not us. But you're on the right track if you can compare an African's hair to the hair of Alahayam. You're on the right track. Excuse me. But you need to refine it more. You need to refine it to a people, a peculiar people. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were open. So this is the judgment of the white throne. I beheld then, because the voice of the great words which the horn spoke. So this horn is speaking blasphemous things. I beheld even till the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. So that flame is the lake of fire that will be created for the end time eternal punishment of all wickedness, including people and the devils and demons and Satans. Verse 12. As concerning the rest of the beasts, which are the empires, they had their dominion taken away, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. So the dominion was taken away from the empires that are coming to rule over us. He's going to take that away, as well as the dominion of the Satans who will try to still dominate and control the earth. He's going to take all that away. But they will still be allowed to roam the earth for a short while, for a short season. We're going to see it. We're going to see it as we go through the list. Verse 15, I, Daniel, was grieved in my spirit, in the midst of my body, and the visions of my head troubled me. I came near unto one of them that stood by, and asked him the truth of all this. So he told me and made me to know the interpretation of the things. So who's interpreting for Daniel is none other than an angel sent by Alahayam to give Daniel the interpretation and the revelation of the dream. These great beasts, which are four kings or four kingdoms. Sometimes you see kings and it means kingdoms. Sometimes it means leaders or actual kings. Which shall rise out of the earth, which is physical. So when you see the word sea and earth are used interchangeably to mean that it is a physical kingdom. It is a physical kingdom. Verse 18, but the saints of Ha'olah Yewan shall take the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. He's not speaking about these kingdoms that will rise up. He is speaking of his own kingdom that he will establish on the earth. There's only one true kingdom, and that's the kingdom of Al-Hayam. Verse 19, then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful, whose teeth were of iron, and we know which one that is, and his nails of brass, which devoured, broke in pieces, and stamped the residue with his feet. So we see this last kingdom, the fourth kingdom, has or had two elements going for it: iron and brass. Who was the brass? The Greek Empire. Who is the iron? The Roman Empire. So we're starting to see the amalgamation of all the previous empires from before. And you're going to see more and more of it as we go on with the other scriptures. Because remember, Daniel saw an image of a man in 5 pieces. He saw one image in 5 portions. So it's only one. It is only one that we're supposed to see. One purpose, one plan, one goal. But the Satans are using these kingdoms to bring about this particular goal, and that is world domination, control. And look what this iron loved to do. It loved to stamp the residue again, the residue which is the Most High's people, with his feet. Verse 20, and the 10 horns that were on his head, and of the other which came up, and before whom 3 fell, even of that horn that had eyes, and a mouth that spoke very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows, I beheld, and the same horn made war with the saints and prevailed against them. Now, I know people can go back in history, like I said to you, you can go back in history and read about the conquering, these empires that were conquered one after another by each other. And that was another point that I meant to make, is that even though they conquered each other, they had a plan to do that. It wasn't that the Babylonian Empire is different from the Medes and Persian. When you look at it from a people point of view, like you and I, yes, we are different. But the Satans behind these kingdoms have one purpose and one mind, and that is to destroy, control, subdue. That's their purpose and that's their plan. And even if it means killing people, and remember what I said before, when they shed blood, it empowers them. So they want to have wars. They want to conquer each other. But it is not them per se that is being conquered. It is the nations that are fighting against one another, giving them the power because blood is being shed. They endorse it greatly. And that's why you have the Babylonian Empire being conquered by the Medes and Persian, and the Medes and Persian Empire being conquered by the Greek Empire, and the Greek Empire being conquered by the Roman Empire. Lots of blood being shed, lots of destruction, and more power to these Satans. The only people that stood in the way are the people of Al-Hayam, the residue. Now, when you go to verse 20 about the little horn, I know people and the 10 horns on the head of this beast, you can go back in history and see that, yes, there were a time when they had 10 kings and 3 were uprooted and then just 1 came up. You can see that in history as well. You can see that. But this particular incident, this particular event is end times event, even if it happened in the past. This horn, we'll see who this horn is later on. Made war with the saints and prevailed against them. This is the time of Yaakov's trouble. We know that we've had persecutions before, but what is coming is going to be even greater. It hasn't happened yet. And we'll see as we continue on more proof to show you that this little horn is yet to come. Verse 22, until Othayag ol Hayawam, Ancient of Days, came, and judgment was given to the saints of Ha'olayawan. Now, has that happened yet? No. And the time came that the saints possessed the kingdom. Have we possessed our kingdom yet? No. We're still waiting to be regathered. So that's why I said that this little horn is not here yet. Verse 23. His spirit is here though, but he's not here yet. Thus he said, the 4th beast shall be the 4th kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it in pieces, because it is a ruthless, cruel, brutal kingdom. And the 10 horns out of this kingdom are 10 kings. So now we know that horns represent kings, leaders, not kingdoms, leaders that shall arise. And another shall rise after them. And this particular leader, ruler, he shall be diverse from the first. And he shall subdue 3 kings. So from the very beginning, you're going to see that he is different from all the other kings, and he will subdue, meaning they're going to be taken out. He shall speak great words against Ha'olayawan, and shall wear out the saints of Ha'olayawan. So here it is again. This is where I'm saying this has not happened yet. And think to change times and laws, and they shall be given into his hand, meaning all these things that he is coming to do is given to him to do it, even to go against the saints and prevail against them. And this will happen, and they shall be given into his hand until what? A time and times and the dividing of time. That's prophetic for 3.5 years. And this has not happened yet. This is telling us about the last 7 years before the end. All right, verse 26. But the judgment shall sit, and they shall take away his dominion, to consume and to destroy it unto the end. This is the dominion of the horn. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole earth shall be given to the people of the saints of Ha'olayawan. This is the kingdom of Alahayam. Ha'olayawan means the highest, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. So this is all future, has not happened yet. We're still waiting to be regathered. Okay. There are 4 beast systems, or rather empires, that have been around since the dawn of time. Let us take a look at these empires. Now, Shinar, if you think about Nimrod from the very beginning, which was Shinar was later called Babel by the Most High. It was ruled by Nimrod. And although that kingdom, it was world ruling, but it was destroyed because they were building a tower to the heavens. The Most High had to destroy that. Not destroy the people, but destroy the plan. And what did he do? He took away their language and gave them 70 languages so they couldn't understand each other. So communication was lost. But we see Babylon reassembling itself, reappearing under the rulership of Nebuchadnezzar. It's the same Babel, because Babel and Babylon are of the same, they're the same words, means confusion. And that head was of gold, and the animal was a lion. Now the second empire is the Medes and Persia, which was dominated by the Persians and their kings. The Medes were conquered by the Persians. This is the chest or breast and arms of silver. And this is also the bear. That's the animal. Third empire is the Greece. The Greek Empire, Alexander the Great died and 4 of his generals became kings, and his empire was divided into 4 parts. That's the belly and thighs of brass, and the animal to represent this empire is the leopard. And then we have the 4th empire, which is the Roman Empire, is the worst of them all, was an animal or a beast with no description, and this was for a very good reason, because it's comprised of all the 3 before it. Now the Romans conquered Jerusalem, that's Jerusalem, and it really stamped out our people, especially the last time in 70 AD. They murdered many of our people and desecrated our temple, not once but twice, during the reign of Antiochus and then with Titus. The Roman Empire was by far the worst of all world-dominating empires, hence the reason why Daniel could not describe their animal. Later on, we will see what their animal is, as it is a combination of several animals that preceded it. Now, the Roman Empire fell, quote unquote, all right, in 476 AD, but it really did not vanish away. It fell apart, but it didn't dissipate. It didn't vanish away. All it did, it went underground and reinvented itself a number of times over. So this is the reason why Daniel only saw 4 empires in chapter 7. In chapter 2, the 5th was exposed, was revealed, because it is of the Roman Empire. So it reinvented itself a number of times. And we're going to see what these empires are called. All the subsequent empires that will rule on the earth are spawned from the Roman Empire. And Daniel showed us this in chapter 2, when he saw the 5th one. But there are more than 5. The first time the reformed Roman Empire reared its devilish head was the reign of the Roman Catholic Church. Although this entity is still in existence, its power as a world ruler has been greatly diminished because there is a rise of another empire that is currently ruling, that is empire number 6. And we're going to see what that is in a minute. Somewhat in the shadows, so it's currently ruling somewhat in the shadows, but it is gaining great significant power over nations, over countries, over peoples, over the earth. The ruler of the Roman Catholic Church works closely with the latest empire, and that one is called the United Nations. But more about the United Nations later on In part 3, we're going to go into greater detail about this empire. It is an empire. Although Danayal saw 5 kingdoms, it is later revealed through Yehochanan that there are in fact 8 kingdoms or empires, a total of 8. We will see this when we reach the chapters on the book of Revelation. We're going to get to it in this part, some of it in this part 1, and in part 2 you'll see more of it. But first, let us look at the Roman Catholic Church that was a merge between the Roman political state and the Christian Church. Be aware that Christianity was around. It was around long before Hamashiach was born on this earth. Therefore, Christianity is not a reformed religion of Hamashiach's ministry that he left on the earth. But in fact, it is an Egyptian pagan religion. Many people believe because Christ is the beginning of the word Christian or Christianity, and they believe that Christ is their Savior, they think that it is a religion that was made because he died and he left his ministry behind, calling it Christianity. But that is not true. That is not so. Because Christianity was around before he was around. Okay. There's some banging on my roof, and I believe it's the cats. I'm so sorry if you can hear that. Yes. Okay, let's carry on. So all the elements that make up Christianity, they're pagan. No wonder why our forefathers, taken in slavery, were indoctrinated into it. Now, if it was of Hamashiach, then all the things that they used to do and were told not to do anymore, they would have been allowed to do it. But we were told, our forefathers were told, no, you cannot keep the laws, cannot keep the commandments. You can't even keep your names anymore. Many of our people cannot grasp this concept due to their own indoctrination by their church leaders. And they are still choosing to follow this pagan path of wickedness. People are still convinced that Christianity is our religion. We are not in a religion anyway. We are in relationship with the Most High. Hamashiach left a ministry. But we're not in a religion. All religion is division. All religion is pagan. We're not in a religion. Children of Yashraal, we are in ministry to the Most High. Everything that he tells us to do, everything that he told our forefathers to do, was in service to him. That's what ministry means. Ministry to him and ministry to each other. To serve him and him alone. So we are not in a religion. We were never in a religion. We were in ministry, in service to the Most High. So let us look at some of the elements of Christianity, if you don't believe me. First one, they worship on Sunday, which is their Sabbath. Sunday was named after the sun god Ra of Matzorayim, which is Egypt. They worship pagan on holy days called Christmas. Again, you have that Christ in front of that mass, which make people think, oh, it has to be good. We have to celebrate Christmas because our Christ was born on Christmas Day. Celebrating the birthday of Tammuz, the son of Nimrod, and his wife, because he married his mother, by the name of Semiramis. Easter, named after Ishtar, a pagan goddess, and Isis is the Egyptian goddess counterpart. All these gods and goddesses have counterparts. They worship the cross, which is a pagan Egyptian symbol, a variation of the Ankh. I kid you not. They worship a deity called Jesus Christ, who is in fact Tammuz. That is why they celebrate his birthday every December 25th. Now, if you've ever been to the Middle East, December 25th, or any date in December for that matter, you're going to find that it's cold and wet, cold and rainy, very cold. All right? So we know that our Savior was not born in December. No, he was not. He was born earlier, September/October. They call on Lord and God, which are also pagan deities called Baal, and so much more. Note that all pagan religions with their rituals and their gods are all counterparts of each other, whether Babylonian, Egyptian, Roman, or Greek. They may have different names, but they are the same fallen angels for each country, whether male or female. Doesn't matter. They're all counterparts of the same. Now let's get back to the Roman Empire. The Roman Emperor Constantine may have had something to do with the merging of the Roman political state and Christianity, as his mother Helena was a Christian. And he later became a Christian. So that should give you a loud alarm that Christianity is not the true ministry that Hamashiach left on the earth. If these pagans, these heathens, call themselves that, cannot be true. Something is wrong. He used Christianity as a way to infiltrate our brethren in order to conquer them from within, and he won. As valiant as our brethren were in fighting against the Romans, the persecution was so great that many surrendered to Christianity as their religion. The ministry that Hamashiach left and the laws that they were commanded to keep were outlawed. And anyone caught keeping the commandments of Allah Hayam were killed. So they were forced to keep Christianity and all its pagan rituals. They were forced to keep them, or else they were going to be killed. And all the laws and the commandments and the rituals of the Most High, they were outlawed. The cross was introduced to be worshipped. Remember what our first commandment says? All right. We're not supposed to produce anything and worship it. But we see in the churches today, they have crosses all over the place, on top of the steeples inside the church, and people go and bow down to the cross, which is an ankh, a variation of the ankh. We wear I wore a cross around my neck until I got convicted about it some years ago, many years ago. But I was told as a Christian that is a symbol of Christ and what he did for us, because he died on the cross. He did not die on the cross, he died on the stake. So the cross was introduced to be worshipped, as well as the worship of Mary. The woman that birthed Hamashiach, her name was called Mariam and not Mary. Mary, who is called the Mother of God. She is an Egyptian goddess as well, called Isis. And the counterpart is called Ishtar. Remember, Ishtar is the goddess for Easter. And the same thing with Eve. And the same thing with Esther. The book of Esther, remember? My namesake. Hadassah. The word Esther is Ishtar. They're all Egyptian goddesses. So that's why I said Christianity is an Egyptian pagan religion that was introduced to us to keep us sinning, to keep us in error, to keep us away from the truth and away from Allah Hayam, to keep him angry at us because of our ignorance. But we brought all of this upon ourselves because when we were living in safety in our own land, our own people went against the Most High and disobeyed his laws and his commandments and started acting and living like whores, like harlots. And when I say that, I'm talking about it spiritually, going after other gods, doing all the things that the Most High said not to do, what the other nations were doing, sacrificing their babies, amongst other things. So all the things that we have to endure today, we have to surrender to that and say, Father, forgive me and forgive our forefathers, because we brought all of this upon ourselves. We brought it upon ourselves, and we still are bringing it upon ourselves because there's still many of us that are refusing to listen, that are refusing to obey the Most High, to obey his word. Because it is inconvenient to obey his word, to obey his laws and his commandments. Do you know what our people want? What they've always wanted, to be like the other nations. Even though we are created to be a peculiar people, a special treasure for Allah Hayah. But we want to toss that away. We want to toss our inheritance away to inherit sin and all the delicacies that comes with it, including death. And that's why we have our own people, even today, speaking of reparations. They want gold, they want silver, because they can manage gold and they can manage silver, but they cannot manage the Most High. And they don't want him to manage them. And that's why they're going after the silver and the gold. Oh, give us reparations for all the bad things that you've done for us. They're going after blood money. Give me the inheritance that's waiting for me where dust and rust cannot corrupt. But not these ones. Not these ones. They still want the money. And the day that they get the money, the next day, money will be no more. It's all going to be changed into digital. And the only way they're going to be able to access it is to go and submit themselves to the beast. That's what's coming. Take your eyes off the gold. It's fool's gold. Remember he went and hid a garment, and he hid maybe some gold. When Joshua told them to destroy everything, burn everything with fire, do not keep anything for yourselves, kill and destroy everything. But this one called he went and hid some stuff in his tent. And the next battle that they went out to fight, it brought the wrath of Allahayam against the whole camp. That's not going to happen anymore, by the way. Not going to happen anymore. One person's mistake is going to remain his mistake, not all the others' mistake. And when it was discovered that it was him that had hidden the forbidden things, he was destroyed, so that the curse can roll back, can roll off of the children of Yashrael. And we're still lusting after things, even though it is polluted. Why would you want their polluted money? They killed so many innocent people for that money. And then they turn around and give it to you. And you become just as cursed as they are. Stop lusting after money. Where we are going and what the Most High has for us, we don't have to spend a dime. It's all free. And it's 1000% good. All right. That's my rant for the day. Okay, let's move on. Constantine created the Nicene Council to govern all Christians. Yes, to control people through this religion, and especially our people, the southern kingdom of Yahweh. This religion has been around for a long time now, and in the name of Jesus Christ have killed many people like our people, and conquered many civilizations, turning them away from their religions to the religion of Christianity. So that's why I said that the Roman Catholic Church was an empire, because that's what they did. In the name of Jesus Christ and the cross, they went in and conquered peoples, nations, and changed them from whatever religion or gods that they were serving into their own gods. No, yeah, you might say they were all heathens anyway, but yeah, this is what these Satans do, and this is what they love, because in causing these nations and peoples to be converted, some have to die to bring fear and submission. And remember, these Satans, these devils, these demons, they love blood. And the more blood, the better for them. They don't care how many people they have to kill. They don't. Today, the Roman Catholic Church, with its emperor called the Pope, plays a very big part in world affairs, and not only religious affairs. Recently, the Pope was successful in merging three main religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, to form Chrislam. Its headquarters is located in Abu Dhabi, in a residence called the Abrahamic Family House. This includes 3 houses of worship, a temple, a church, and a mosque. The Roman Catholic Church is also a political figure, and it is the only religion to be able to vote at the United Nations as the Holy See. Now, is that a surprise? No, it's not. The Pope lives in the Vatican City, and it is considered the smallest country in the world. Now, the reason why I'm spending this much time on this pagan religion is to explain the feat of iron and clay. The Roman Empire is the iron, but when it forced the southern kingdom to submit or die, then they became, being the clay, were forced to mix. Many believe that the iron and clay are in reference to technology and man, but what is occurring in regards to these beasts and empires all have to do with religion. The Satans greatly desired the worship of all peoples, especially the 12 tribes of Yashraal. Even when our forefathers went into slavery and were indoctrinated in their slave masters' pagan religions, this is also iron mingling with the clay. The reason why the two will never mix is because Yashraal is of a different species of people compared to all other nations and peoples. Our D-N-A- series is higher. We have 9. All other people have only 6. We have the signature of Ha'aba within us on a molecular level, both physically and spiritually, and although many of our brethren may be drawn into pagan worship, they will always still be considered outsiders because we are different. We were created different, we were born different, we will always be different. Even when we are wicked, we'll be different. No wonder Negroes are hated even when they comply. But let us move on to the 5th empire or kingdom to learn a little more about it, and then we will look at the others, the present and future empires and their Satans. Now, the 5th empire, the Roman Catholic Church, was a worldwide empire and currently without the authority to rule as it once did. It is nothing like its predecessors and was never intended to be like them. It had a specific function to indoctrinate and control through conquering and or the destruction of peoples and nations for the sake of a pagan religion. And Christianity was the weapon used. But today, its function is to unite all the other pagan religions beneath it to form one religion. It will also unite all trades and commercial industries, as this entity is also political. All this will occur to help usher in the ultimate world ruling empire along with the help of the UN. Before we move on to the United Nations, which is the empire number 6 currently ruling, and the empires numbering 7 and 8, let us look at the first beast in the book of Revelation. We are only looking at these beasts for the moment. Later, when we go through the chapters, then the understanding of what we're dealing with will be clear. And I'm using the chapters and verses according to the Bible and not according to my revisions as yet. Now remember, I revised them. I moved them around. I didn't take anything out, neither did I add anything into the book of Revelation. So I just want to get that clear. And we're starting at Revelation chapter 12. In part 2, we're going to move on to Revelation 13 and 17 and 18 and 19. Only bits and pieces because we're looking at the parts that deal with the beast. But we're going to start here with Revelation chapter 12 because I want to show you something. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and this is starting from verse 3 of Revelation chapter 12. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as he was born. So remember when I spoke to you earlier about the Satan, that scripture that says, I behold Satan fall like lightning. And I said, even amongst the 5 Satans, there's a leader. There's one that went rogue, that went bad. And he was the one who drew the 3rd of the angels from the heavens. They were cast out of the upper heavens down to the second heaven. No, they're not there anymore. So this is why I said, let's go to the scriptures and let the scriptures speak to us. Let the word speak to us and show us what the truth is. Verse 7. And there was war in heaven. Mayakaal and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought with his angels and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceives the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Him and his whole troops were cast out. And we know that this has taken place. Look at all the evil that is roaming on the earth, all the evil that is taking place that we've never seen or even thought of, or even thought that we would even experience or hear. And it is happening. Such wickedness. So that great dragon was cast out. And look at the word old serpent. Who tempted Hawa in the garden? Okay. Manifested himself as a serpent. And he's called the devil and Satan. Hashatan. Now we must tie the Satans to the empires so that we understand that all these world empires were possessed and will be in the future by the high-ranking Satans, as well as the present and future world empires. Now remember, I told you to keep Gadriel in the forefront of your mind. Don't forget about him. The evidence of this is in the verse above. The dragon is called an old serpent and devil and Satan. Although Yochanan was watching an event taking place in the spiritual realm, it was also speaking of the physical manifestation of this Satan, which was an empire, a physical empire, going after the woman. Now you have to ask this question, who is the woman? It's not a mystery because I've spoken about her before several times. In the chariots of Yashraal, and I believe, I can't remember the other place that I spoke about her. But definitely in the chariots of Yashraal, I go into detail about who she is. She is the southern kingdom, because the man-child that she delivered is none other than Hamashiach. Hamashiach came through the lineage of Yahawada, which is the southern kingdom, made up of 2.5 tribes. When Hamashiach was a young child, King Herod wanted to destroy him. King Herod was an affiliate of the Roman Empire. They were the ones who installed him as king, and he was a very wicked king that was ruling at that time. So the Roman Empire was ruling at the time. Therefore, when King Herod went after the child, it was in fact the Satan ruling through the Roman Empire and Herod going after him. He didn't want Hamashiach to be born because he knew trouble was brewing. When we look at the physical manifestation of this event, then we will see a common thread, that the beast and dragon are empires possessed each by a Satan. Images that Daniel and Yochanan saw were all evil entities with brutish, cruel, wicked attributes and intentions. Now I know some people, especially those Christians out there that are not of our people, maybe even some of our people, they look at this, the woman, the child, and the dragon, as some sort of study of the stars. They claim that such an event took place in September of 2017, September 23rd, 2017, I believe, and to do with astronomy, the study of stars. And that's what they are doing. They're using the study of stars to predict events of the end times, to understand what is written in a book that was written only for Yashraal. That's why they can't understand it. And because they can't understand it, and Ruach HaKodesh, he is not giving them the interpretation or the revelation. They have to go to their Father to get his interpretation. And I'm speaking of Satan. Who else do you think I'm speaking of? If they're not serving the Most High, who is Allah Hayam, who else will they be serving? There are only two entities here. That is, and I don't want to call the Most High an entity because he is creator. We have only two to serve. And if we're not serving Ha'ola Yawan, then you're serving the devil. I don't care what you call him. You're serving the devil, whether directly or indirectly, you're serving the devil. So when they can't get revelation from Ha'ola Yawan through his Ruach HaKodesh, then they're going to get their revelation from Satan and from his fallen angels or from the Nephilim spirits. And that's why they have to go to the stars to study the stars to know what's going to happen. It's all witchcraft. Stay away from studying the stars. The stars, the sun, the moon, and stars were given to us to beautify, to bring light upon the earth, to beautify the heavens, and that's it. All right. Spiritually, they were seen as beasts. And this is speaking of these, the beasts. Sorry, let me repeat that. Spiritually, they were seen as beast or a dragon. So this is what Yehochanan and Dana Ya'al saw. But their physical manifestations are that of empires. All right? Let me repeat that again. When Yehochanan saw the dragon, and later on he's going to see the beast coming up out of the sea, the beast that's coming out of the earth. He's going to see the beast with the woman, the whore, riding upon the image that Dana Ya'al saw, the animals that he saw, the beast, especially the fourth one that was so horrible. They're all connected to get together because they're all symbolic both spiritually and physically. Spiritually, they represent a Satan. Physically, they represent either an empire, but in the case of the horn, in the case of the entity, the beast that came out of the earth, having two horns like a lamb, that is the man of perdition. That is also Satan incarnate. And then when you look at the whore is a city. And even though it's represented as a she, mother of harlots, feminine pronouns, it is also giving you an idea that it is a creature. There's more going on with it than just being a city. He wants us to see that there's something that is activating, something that is working through these images, these entities. And the thing that is working through them are the Satans. When we reach this chapter about the woman and the man child, we will go deeper into deeper details by looking at the evidence in all other scriptures to prove that this is speaking of the southern tribe and the birth of Hamashiach. That's what he's doing. He's just giving us evidence and proving to us and showing us who this dragon is supposed to be on a spiritual level and on a physical level. On a spiritual level, you see the woman is symbolic of the southern kingdom. The man child is symbolic of Hamashiach because, she gives birth to him. Then he dies and he rose again and he meant to sit at the right hand of his father on his throne. Some people want to say, oh, that's symbolic of the church. Oh, that's symbolic of the bride. That's symbolic of this. That's symbolic of that. Everything but Hamashiach. I notice it is the Christian heathens that are saying this. Yes, I call them heathens because that's what they are. When you realize that all the things that they do, all the things that they hold dear, even the names that they call are all pagan, how can you call them anything but heathen? And I have friends that are Christians, so don't think that I'm I try to tell them, but they don't want to listen. So you don't hear, you're going to feel. That's what we say where I come from. So let's go back to when we reach this chapter about the woman and the man child. We will go into deeper details by looking at the evidence in other scriptures to prove that this is speaking of the southern tribe and the birth of Hamashiach. In the meanwhile, we want to stay the course concerning the beast and their satans. So this is coming on to the ending of part 1. So let us recap. In part 2, you're going to get deeper and it's going to get heavier. This is some deep stuff, folks. Deep, deep stuff. And like I said, a lot of things that I teach, I don't see or hear anyone speaking about it. People just tend to glaze over the scriptures. They glaze over the beast. They glaze over all the different things. And they just think, okay, from what I've heard before, or the popular opinion is, and I am going along with the popular opinion. I don't go along with popular opinion. I've never been that kind of person. I go to the Father and I ask him, please help me to understand. I want to understand it for me first. So let's recap. Danayal saw two images that are one and the same, which coincided with the beast that Yochanan saw. What these two men witnessed were prophetic imagery depicting the Satans as spiritual manifestations, while at the same time physical manifestations of empires/kingdoms. The anti-Messiah, which we will see in the next study, and a whore, which we will also look at in the next study, part 2. These Satans have possessed these kingdoms throughout the ages, and they have wielded their evil powers to control, to subdue, to corrupt, and to destroy nations, tongues, and peoples. They will be successful in bringing their plans together, but only for a short while. We're going to know how long that's going to be. It's spoken in the word. And Allah have given them the authority to carry out their agendas with limitations, of course. Now, unless Allah gives them the authority, they cannot do anything. They have no power to go against him. They will go against him when he gives them authority to do it. But they have no power of their own to go against Allah. They have no power. He gives them the authority. He allows them. He said, okay, go ahead. Even though they're blaspheming his name and blaspheming the host in heaven, although they're blaspheming his people on the earth, he said, go ahead. Right? They're doing what they're commanded to do by him. And what they're doing is helping him to sift the nations, even our people, to separate the chaff from the wheat, the tares from the wheat, the goats from the sheep. Who's on his side? Stand over here. Who's on the other side? You stand over there. It is forcing us to make a choice, to choose whom we will serve. And this is why he is allowing these things. It's not that he wants us to be killed off. It's not that he wants evil to roam the earth. He wants to put an end into this. But at the same time, he wants to raise up his generation of the righteous remnant that will possess his kingdom once and for all. So let's look at the first empire. It's the Babylonian Empire. The Babylonian Empire was dethroned and replaced by the Medes and Persian Empire. And their Satan was deposed, the Babylonian Satan. Or the Satan that ruled through the Babylonian Empire, he was deposed. Meaning, he's out. Out, but not destroyed, and out, but not out of play. He is waiting for his next opportunity. The Medes Empire was dethroned and replaced by the Greek Empire. And his Satan was also deposed and also waiting to be used again, waiting to find his next, or to carry out his next agenda. They all have this thing planned, and they've had it planned for a long, long, long time now. So just because they're deposed doesn't mean that they're like, oh, well, I'm going to go on vacation. No. They're still working together. So the Medes and Persian Empire was dethroned and replaced by the Greek Empire, which was dethroned and replaced by the Roman Empire. And that Satan too was deposed. Now these are the main world ruling empires. Yes, there were other empires, smaller empires. And yes, they had a hand in them. But these are the ones that control the whole earth. Now the Roman Empire was not dethroned, but strategically fell apart. It fell to be reformed into the Roman Catholic Church. Now that Satan from the Roman Empire remained and was passed on to the Roman Catholic Church. That's the fifth empire. Now, the Roman Catholic Church was diminished, but only for now, as it is currently reforming itself. It's going to become another entity. And this Satan will remain until its next phase. Now, the kingdom or empire number 6, the United Nations. It is a spawn. They're all spawns of the Roman Empire, by the way, and currently ruling. And when you see what this entity is all about, you will have no doubt that it is an empire that is currently ruling. But it doesn't give you that face, though. It doesn't. It has a Satan from one of the empires above. Doesn't matter which one, with the exception of the last two. It doesn't matter. They recycle themselves to fulfill their missions. But I have here Gadriel in the United Nations. Right? I have Gadriel here, and I have his name here for a reason. Remember, he was the one who created the weapons of destruction. He's into weaponry. He's into technology. Now, the United Nations, let's move on to number 7, the New World Order, NWLO. And for that purpose, I will refer these ones by their abbreviations. The NWO, it will be merged with the UN. Yes, it will. Therefore, the Satan from the UN will rule through this empire. And it will rule for 3.5 years, 42 months, until its empire is devastated but not destroyed as yet. When I say destroyed, I mean cast into the lake of fire. But the Satan, Gadriel, will be deposed. But later on, he's going to return, but with his armies. He's the one that's going to be cast into the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. Revelation 19. And when the New World Order is devastated but not destroyed, it does what it does best, reforms itself to the 8th empire, and they call it the NWO reformed. And it will have another Satan, because the previous one, Gadriel, he ran his course, and later on he failed. So the other Satan, Azazel, from the bottomless pit, Abaddon or Abaddon or Apollyon, the destroyer, he will be released during the time of the 5th trumpet. Now you want to ask me, how do you know this? You just got to read precepts and then the revelation of Ruach HaKodesh. We know Azazel is being kept. He is being kept in a bottomless pit. Then the angel that fell came with the keys and opened up the bottomless pit, and the watchers came out, and he is released as the king of the bottomless pit. So who else would it be? Who else? And both him and Gadriel specialized in weapons of mass destruction. All the others were interested in spells and all these different things. But these two in particular were interested in making weaponry and causing men to fight against one another, to kill one another. And that's why I can pull out these two. All right? That's how I know. So what about the other two Satans, as we have a count of only 3 in the above empire? So if you look, starting from the Roman Empire, number 4, which was passed on to the Roman Catholic Church. So that's one Satan. The United Nations and the New World Order is going to merge with Gadriel as their king, and Satan, that's Satan number 2. And then we know Azazel is in the bottomless pit, but when he comes, he will be the king of the NWO reform. That's Satan number 3. What about the other 2? Now, not meaning to go ahead of ourselves, but I will tell you, we still have 2 other entities that are due to come. And that is the anti-Messiah, that's number 4, and the image of the beast empire. Remember, he will cause them to make an image of the NWO. That's going to have its own Satan as well. So that will be number 5. And they will host the remaining, which will be the host, and which will be the 2 remaining Satans. I have that written kind of strange. Okay, yes, I read it wrong. I'm sorry. And that is the anti-Messiah and the image of the beast empire, which will host, meaning these 2 entities will host the remaining 2 Satans. This is a very interesting study, guys. Very interesting. It's very deep, very, very profound, very deep, very heavy. I'm telling you, I have done this lesson so many times already. And each time the Most High said to me, go back to the drawing board. There's something else I want to show you. Because I was getting ahead of myself to get the word out there. And he's like, no, it's not time yet. Now it's time. Okay? At first, it was one lesson, one study. But as it grew, I realized there's no way that I can do this in one go. So I did it in 3 parts. And when I tried to do it in one part, it was just way too much. Way too much. And if it was too much for me, I can imagine how much heavier it would be for you. This is a very important lesson because we have to understand the entities involved in all these world events and these things that are happening around us and what is to come. The good news is that we will be regathered before a lot of these things happen. We will be regathered. It will only be those that are left behind who have a change of heart, but the only way that they can make it out is through death and to be martyred, to be returned to the earth again when Hamashiach comes for his 1,000-year reign. And that will be the resurrection to life. That's the only hope that they have. In the meantime, these entities are going to go after the northern kingdom because they have to go through something too. We have been persecuted and oppressed and tormented for generations. They haven't. So now this is their turn. We did it out because of our disobedience. And the Most High is sifting us this way. And the same way we are being sifted like wheat, they too need to be sifted. And they need to go through some things to know that their gods that they're serving, even some of them that are Christians, and whatever religions that they're in, their gods can't save them from the persecution to come. So they either have to submit to the Most High and surrender their gods and repent and turn from their wicked ways, or perish. Although many will still perish when they do this. Many. That's why it said the little horn went after the saints of Ha'olah Yawan and prevailed against them. It's going to be a horrible experience, but it will divide the line in the sand for the children of Yashrael, for the northern kingdom, to make their choice once and for all, that they will serve Ha'olah Yawan even if they die. Even if they die. And if that is their heart, and they do die, they will come back again. But the others, the remnant that will take possession of our land, they will begin their second exodus. What I'm going to do, I have a timeline that will show you when that second exodus will begin. But right now we're going to focus on the beast, because once we understand the beast, we are understanding the players. Next, we want to understand the timeline. Then we get right back into the book of Revelation, starting from chapter 7. So that when we proceed now, we start reading these chapters, we can have an understanding of what is happening. And for that, I will bid you Shalawam. I'm going to read the blessing of Yashraal for you, if I can find it. I have it memorized, but for some reason, when I come to recite it, it just goes clean out of my head. Yabarakak Yahweh, Ya Shamarak. May Yahweh bless you and keep you, protect you. Ya'ar Yahweh panayo alayak wa yachanak. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you and have favor upon you. Yasha'a Yahweh panayo alayak wa yasham lak shalawam. May Yahweh lift up his countenance, his face upon you, and give you peace. And with that, I bid you Shalawam, Shalawam. Please stay tuned for part 2 of this wonderful study. And I bid you as well, again, Shalawam. Praises to the Most High, Abba Yah.